Good morning again. So, in the last class, we had seen about the cerebrum, okay, the blood supply of the cerebrum. Okay, so in today's session, we will be seeing the other parts of the brain which is below the cerebrum. Okay, so we'll be seeing about the brain stem in today's session. Okay, we'll be seeing about the brain stem in today's session. The brain stem, it continues down as the spinal cord. Okay, it continues down as the spinal cord. Okay, it is made up of medulla oblongata, pons, and midbrain from below upwards. Okay, so if you trace the spinal cord from below, the first one is the medulla oblongata, the next one will be the pons, and the third one will be the midbrain. Okay, and after midbrain, it will be the cerebrum. Okay, if you go, it is going from below upwards. So we'll see each one of these structures in detail. The medulla oblongata, it is situated between the pons. Okay, it is situated between the pons and the spinal cord. Okay, between the pons and the spinal cord. It passes into the skull, the spinal cord passes into the skull through a big foramen, which is called as foramen magnum. Okay, it passes through the foramen magnum into the skull. Now, what are the features which we need to see in this one, in the medulla oblongata? We need to look for the anterior and posterior central fissures. Okay, I will show you all these structures. The pyramids, olive, the pyramidal decussation, the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th cranial nerves. Okay, so these are the structures which are the most important structures which are located in medulla oblongata. So I'll just show you these structures. So here, this part, this is the pons, okay, and this is the medulla. Okay, this part is called as the anterior part. It's called as anterior median fissure. Okay, it's called as anterior median fissure. Okay, so the anterior median fissure. Okay, similarly on the posterior part, you will be able to see the posterior median sulcus. This is the posterior part of the medulla oblongata. Okay, the next structure, just next to this median fissure, there is an elevation. Okay, and this elevation is resembling like a pyramid. Okay, and that's why this is called as pyramid. Okay, pyramid. Okay, and next to the pyramid, there is another one swelling, okay, or protrusion, which resembles the olive. This is called as an olive. Okay, why there is an elevation? Because there is something inside which is pushing it up. Okay, so that you will be learning in your next semester. For example, in pyramid, just below the pyramid is a tract which is called as cortico-spinal tract. Okay, it is called as cortico-spinal tract. Okay, and behind the olive there is olivary nucleus. Okay, there is a nucleus which is called as olivary nucleus. So because there is some structure which is behind and it pushes the medulla. Okay, so that's why there is an elevation. Okay, so pyramid is because of cortico-spinal tract and olive is because of olivary nucleus. As you come down, here you can see there is decussation of pyramids. What is this decussation of the pyramids? Crossing over. Okay, so while we were discussing about the cerebrum, I told you that the right half of the right cerebral hemisphere controls the left half of the body, whereas the left cerebral hemisphere controls the right half of the body. Okay, so you know that the left cerebral hemisphere controls the right half of the body. So whenever we write something, the right-handed person write something, okay, it is controlled by the left-sided cerebral hemisphere. So there needs to be some crossing over. All right. So this crossing over is taking place at this point. Okay. The crossing over, it's called as decussation of premids. Okay. So anterior median fissure, the posterior median fissure I already showed you. Pyramid, olive, decussation of premids. Now 9, 10, 11 and 12 cranial nerve. What is the ninth cranial nerve? The ninth cranial nerve is glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay, the glossopharyngeal nerve. You can see that it is arising behind the olive. Okay, next to the olive, lateral to the olive. Okay, and just below this ninth cranial nerve, there is the 10th cranial nerve, the vagus nerve. Okay, and if you come below, here there is another nerve which is the accessory nerve or the 11th cranial nerve. So 9, 10 and 11th cranial nerve, they arise lateral to the olive. Now this nerve, hypoglossal nerve, which is the 12th cranial nerve, it is arising lateral between the pyramid and the olive. Okay, the hypoglossal nerve arises between the pyramid and the olive. Okay, so this is important. You need to know, sometimes pictures will be given in your exams and we might ask you like, what is this structure? Okay, so it is you need to know at least the structures which I have marked: the anterior median fissure, the pyramid. Next to the pyramid is the olive, and as you trace this anterior median fissure down, okay, so there will be decussation of pyramids. Now lateral to the olive, there is 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves. Between pyramid and olive, there is the 12th cranial nerve. Okay. Any doubts with regard to the medulla?
No, doctor.
Okay.
No, doctor.
Coming to the next one. This one, only the posterior median fissure is needed. Okay. The other things are for the medical students. Okay. So you just remember only the posterior median sulcus right now. Now coming to the next part of the brainstem, which is above the medulla. So this is the pons. The pons, it is located in front of the cerebrum, okay, and it is situated between the medulla and the midbrain. Okay, it is connected to the cerebellum. Okay, it is connected to the cerebellum by middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, by middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, by middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, the middle cerebellar peduncle. Now, what are the other things which you need to know? See, in the case of pons, we need to look at the transverse fibers, the fifth cranial nerve. What is the fifth cranial nerve? The trigeminal nerve, sixth, seventh, and the eighth cranial nerves. Okay, so sixth, seventh, and the eighth cranial nerves. So we'll see all the structure now. Okay, so here you can see this is the medulla. This is the medulla which we have already seen. Okay, the medulla which is already seen. Okay, and just above the medulla continues down as the spinal cord. We are seeing that. Just above the medulla, there is this structure which is the pons. Okay, the pons. Behind the pons, you can see there is cerebellum. Okay, there is cerebellum. The cerebellum is located behind the pons. Okay, the pons is connected to the cerebellum by middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, it is connected by, so here you can see cerebellum. The pons is connected to the cerebellum by middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay, the next structure. Okay, so the next structure, here you can see there is a nerve. This is the trigeminal nerve. There is motor and sensory nerve for the trigeminal, which is arising almost at the junction of pons and the middle cerebellar peduncle. So where the pons ends and the middle cerebellar peduncle starts, at this junction the trigeminal nerve emerges. Okay, the next nerve between the pons and the medulla, that is pontomedullary junction. So in the pontomedullary junctions, here you can see a nerve, here another nerve. So this nerve is the abducent nerve, that is the sixth cranial nerve, and here you can see the facial nerve, which is the seventh cranial nerve, and this one is the eighth cranial nerve, which is the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, the vestibulocochlear nerve. All right. So these are the things which you need to know in a case of pons. It is located in front of the cerebellum, or you can say that cerebellum is located behind the pons. Okay. Longitudinally, if you see, it is situated between the medulla and the midbrain. It is connected to the cerebellum by middle cerebellar peduncle. They have got many transverse fibers. That is the fifth cranial nerve, seventh, eighth, and so sixth, seventh, and eighth cranial nerves at the pontomedullary junction. Okay, the fifth cranial nerve, that is the trigeminal nerve, is located between the pons and the cerebellum. All right, any doubts? Do you have any doubts?
No, doctor, it's all clear.
Okay, coming to the next part of the brainstem, the last part of the brainstem, which is the midbrain. Okay, the midbrain, it is located between the pons and cerebrum. Okay, so we know that from the spinal cord, if we go up from the spinal cord, the first one is medulla, pons. After pons, it will be midbrain. So it is located between the pons and the cerebrum. Now, what are the structures we need to know here? You need to know the crus cerebri, superior and inferior colliculus, cerebral aqueduct. Have you heard of this term, cerebral aqueduct? You remember in our TBL, right? In your TBL or
Yes.
STL?
Yes.
Cerebral aqueduct, yes. So the one which connects the third and the fourth ventricle. Okay, the third and the fourth ventricle, cerebral aqueduct, substantia nigra. Okay, this is a dark substance which is located in the midbrain. Okay, and is concerned with coordination. Okay, and the third cranial nerve and the fourth cranial nerve. The third is arising on the ventral aspect, and the fourth is from the dorsal aspect. So now we will see all these things in this picture. So we know that this is the spinal cord. Okay, this is the medulla. Okay, so whenever you are given a picture, look for the other structures also. See here, there are, this is the medulla oblongata. What is this cranial nerve? This is the ninth cranial nerve. This is the 10th cranial nerve. This is the 11th cranial nerve. Ninth is glossopharyngeal, vagus, and accessory nerve. This is the 12th cranial nerve. Okay, this is the pons. This is the fifth cranial nerve. Okay, trigeminal. So this one is the sixth cranial nerve, seventh, and eighth. Okay, now above the pons is the midbrain. So this is the midbrain. Okay, this is the one which holds the cerebrum. Okay, and this is called as cerebral peduncle. Okay, cerebral peduncle or crus cerebri, both are just the same. Okay, cerebral peduncle or crus cerebri. Okay, what is the meaning of peduncle or crus? Okay, crus is like a root. Okay, the crus is like a root, okay, which holds the cerebrum. You know that the cerebrum, imagine the cerebrum like a tree and the crus like like a stem, okay, like a trunk. Okay, so the one which holds keeps the cerebrum in its place. So this is the crus cerebri. Okay, and in the posterior part of the midbrain, here you can see superior colliculus, inferior colliculus. Okay, superior and inferior colliculus. Okay, superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. Okay, so in this picture, which is the posterior aspect of the midbrain, pons and medulla. So here you can see the upper part of the midbrain containing the superior and inferior colliculus. So the superior and inferior colliculus, they are concerned with vision and auditory. I will be repeating this later. Okay, when we are talking about the special senses, we will be coming and visiting it again. Okay, superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. All right. All right, and here you can see, actually they have not shown here. The third cranial nerve will arise from here. The third cranial nerve, what is the third cranial nerve? Oculomotor nerve. Okay, and this one is the fourth cranial nerve, which is the arising from behind. Okay, remember that the fourth cranial nerve is the only cranial nerve which arises from the dorsal aspect. Okay, so fourth cranial nerve, what is the fourth cranial nerve? Trochlear nerve. Okay, now how will I remember? How can I remember all these cranial nerves? Okay, I'll tell you an easy way. Remember 1 and 2. Okay, the 1 and 2 cranial nerves. Okay, that is olfactory and optic. They arise from the cerebrum. You know that the cerebrum is located above. Okay, so the first and the second cranial nerve. Okay, that is the olfactory and optic nerves. They arise from the cerebrum. Okay, they are located near the cerebrum. The next nerve, 3 and 4. The 3 and 4 located in the midbrain. Okay, the 3 is located anterior and the 4th is located posterior. Okay, so the 3 and 4th cranial nerves arises from the midbrain or they get terminated in the midbrain. Okay, then 5, 6, 7, 8, they arise from pons. Okay, 5 is trigeminal, 6 abducent, 7th and 8th facial and vestibulocochlear. So all these cranial nerves will arise or they get terminated in the pons. The last 4, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8 is over. What is the last one? 9, 10, 11 and 12. Okay, so 9, 10, 11 and 12th cranial nerves. So these cranial nerves will terminate in the medulla oblongata. Okay, so this is a slightly easier way to remember. Okay, first 2 cranial nerves from the cerebrum, third and fourth from the midbrain. Okay, then 5, 6, 7, 8 from pons and 9, 10, 11, 12 from medulla oblongata. All right, any doubts?
No, doctor.
All right, okay. Now, just let me stop the recording.